Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the January 11th, 2021 Clovis City Council meeting. Given the current shelter-in-place order covering the state of California and social distancing guidelines issued by federal, state, and local authorities, the city is implementing changes to participate in council meetings. The council chambers will be open to the public, but we will be implementing social distancing policies and will limit the number of people who may be in the council chambers. The meeting will be webcast and accessed at the link shown on the screen. Members of the public are encouraged to participate in meetings by accessing the webcast at the link shown, providing written comment at the same website, participating by phone, or coming to the city council meeting in person. We are practicing social distancing and can accommodate a maximum of 16 people at one time. I will call the meeting to order and ask Lynn to lead us in the flag salute.
Please join me in saluting the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Lynn. Is the clerk will call roll, please?
Councilmember Ashbeck. Councilmember Flores. Councilmember Mwanatua. Councilmember Whalen.
Here.
Mayor Bessinger.
Here. Now we come to the presentation and proclamations portion of the meeting. We have a presentation recognizing and thanking Ann Bianchi for 37 years of service to the city of Clovis. John.
Good evening. Tonight I have the pleasure of thanking Ann for her 37 years of service. Shortly after the opening of the new senior center in 1982, Ann Bianchi was hired in June of '83 to do dispatching and drive a van to bring seniors to the center. She later progressed to providing clerical assistance and to help create programs and activities for our seniors. Over 37 years, Ann's unfailing commitment to our seniors and our community helped to create a top-notch senior center. Ann coordinated many of the volunteers who kept the senior center running. She wrote the monthly newsletter, complete with interviews from the different seniors, and devised new fundraising efforts, such as the twice-annual rummage sale, where she enlisted the help of her cousin to help sell the items and her husband Dwight to help serve coffee, donuts, and those wonderfully healthy breakfast chili dogs and nachos. Our seniors love Ann. She is the heartbeat of the senior center. She knows most of the participants and has been part of the fabric of Clovis her entire lifetime. Her family home was on Minnewawa between International and Copper. She went to the original Garfield Elementary School and graduated from Clovis High School. She's always willing to help. She's a true team player, an asset to the senior center and to Clovis. She knows the history of our seniors, how to handle the difficult ones, those she is endeared to. She probably knows where some of the skeletons are in people's closets, but she's too much of a lady to bring it up. Even though Ann is retiring after 37 years with the city of Clovis, her legacy will continue. And when we move to the new building, we'll have a beautiful new desk space for Ann to volunteer, or just come and visit with your many friends. Ann, it has been a true pleasure and joy to work with you over the years. We wish you health and happiness in your retirement and look forward to seeing you at the grand opening of the new senior center. And now Amy has a few things too.
I refused your resignation probably a dozen times, but here we are. And on behalf of the staff, which the staff is here, they're out in the ante room because of spacing. We also have Larry Louie, who's here, and I asked Larry to join us because he and Ann are some original OGs at the senior center, so they've been together a long time, and I thought that'd be fitting that he would join us. So Ann, as the tradition is at the city of Clovis, we have a plaque, some flowers, and of course your street sign. So if you want to come on up, we've got some gifts for you.
I think I know the answer to this question, but do you want to say anything? Do you want to introduce your family that came along? Okay, you want to come up here?
Thank you all for coming. This is awesome. My husband's back there standing. That's Dwight. I guess I'll just go by Courtney Bianchi, my granddaughter. Next to her is my son, Jeff Bianchi. My daughter-in-law, Lori Bianchi. My granddaughter, Sienna. My daughter, I can't see you with that mask. My daughter, Lori. My son-in-law, Scott. My son, Greg, over here. Did I forget anybody? Shauna. I remember Shauna the first time she came to the senior center. She was there for an interview. And I remember she had on her red suit. And she came to the counter and she said, can I help with anything? And that's the way Shauna always was. Anyway, that's enough. Thank you for coming.
Any member of council wish to say anything for Ann? And I have a challenge coin for you, and I actually put it in a napkin to give to you so that I'm being cognizant of health stuff. I do.
It's to be used when you go to the bars and people ask you whether you have a challenge coin.
And then let us know if that actually works. Can I just say something?
Yes, Lynn.
And I just wanted to say thank you. I swear, the older I get, the more I cry. What is wrong with this? Are you laughing at me? Oh, you really do represent the very best of this city. So 37 years is a really long time. And I mentioned to Bob, we've had a lot of people walk out the door in the last month or so with 30 years experience, 37 years experience. So it's a really big loss. But do know, to Shauna's point, Clovis is better because you were here, and all that you worked for and organized and set up will stay beyond your actual active working, and I'll help Shauna set up the desk for you at the new senior center. So thank you for all of your work. I remember you at all the volunteer dinners. Luckily, we're not doing dinners anymore, so I guess you can go. But anyway, we're really, really grateful. So thank you for all your service. Yeah, of course. The way work should be.
I'll just add if I can. Ann, I'm over here. No, that's okay. You can stay seated, please. Okay. You represent something to us on the city council that is meaningful, and I know that you're an individual, and your individual contributions have been significant. But at the same time, the senior center to us has become an icon, not just to your council, but to the Clovis community and beyond because of people like you. And it is not, it's not surprising anymore. It was surprising to me at the beginning, but it's not surprising anymore to me that we have people like you who have worked at the city for so long. And I'm really thankful for that, not because of the continuity you bring to the senior center, but also, and maybe this is a little bit selfish, but you and the people around you have created an environment where people do want to work for the city for an extended period of time, where people do want to come to the senior center. And we know it's not just Clovis citizens that are coming to the senior center. We know people are coming kind of underground to the Clovis Senior Center. And we're thankful that you and others have created an environment that has become so important to our community. And we are really looking forward to finally getting a senior center that is a little bit nicer, and that you will be, I think, hopefully it sounds like you'll be volunteering and being able to continue to do the great work as far as making people feel comfortable at that in that little community center. So anyway, I just wanted to throw my 2 cents in, and I thank you for all that you've done.
Jose?
I too want to thank you. I'm over here. Because today our seniors, and you've contributed to this, they're more vibrant than ever before. And one thing that we, through people like you, have proven to our region is that we cannot neglect the people that raised us, that gave us life, and that once they're done with raising their children, educating us, they can't be discarded. There's still so much for them to do, and people like you have acknowledged that and helped them in their golden years. And so thank you. You've meant a lot to many, many that have come through our doors, and we couldn't have given that service without people like you. So thank you.
Bon.
Sure. And I just wanted to say that, a testament to the legacy that you have left is just how your peers filled this room, from Larry coming back to the other staff members being here. And so thank you for that. And thank you for serving not just the city as a staff member, but the community. So thank you very much, and God bless you in retirement.
And I'd like to also join my colleagues and thank you for 37 years of service, for making the lives of our seniors so much better. I have to join Vong in saying we usually don't have tons of people in this environment show up to say goodbye to somebody. And we wish you the best in your retirement. We wish you a healthy retirement, and please be careful. And we hope to see you when we break ground for our new senior center, and we will definitely find you a desk. Thank you so much. Okay, before we go to public comments, I felt it was important for me to make a comment regarding the events of last week, and I will invite any council member to speak after me, or you can wait until council comments to make a comment. Lawful demonstrations outside the U.S. Capitol building have occurred many times in our history of our nation. The First Amendment specifically protects the rights of the people to gather peaceably to petition their government for redress of their grievances. Unfortunately, we live in an environment now where we have so many grievances with our government, with each other. It's not a good time in our nation's history. However, the forced entry into the Capitol chambers by a mob, the interruption of the legislative process, and acts of violence and destruction within the Capitol were criminal acts. The violators should be prosecuted and jailed, just like the people who, for the last year, have been destroying public buildings and defacing government buildings. A Capitol police officer was killed and 14 others were injured. Those responsible for this need to be brought to justice, just like those who committed the same acts over the last year. Over the last 10 years, and especially in the recent months, I've watched with growing concern as violence to meet political and social objectives have become acceptable or even sanctioned. Unfortunately, some good Americans have chosen to ignore, downplay, or even deny that the violence even occurs unless it is done by a group that they don't agree with. I've watched government buildings be destroyed, businesses burned and looted, and law enforcement officers assaulted, injured, and murdered. I watched with astonishment as members of our press reported protests that were peaceful, with buildings burning in the background. As Americans, we cannot continue to turn a blind eye to this political violence, even if we are in agreement or sympathetic to the cause at hand. We cannot continue to condone one mob's violent protest and then condemn another mob. This violence must stop, and it should have been stopped by the leaders in our nation who, in my opinion, advocated their oaths to the American people and focused on being either a loyal Democrat or a loyal Republican and not loyal to the people that they serve. But I have faith in the good people of Clovis. I have faith in our government, and I have faith in our employees. I have faith in my colleagues that whatever comes, we will support and protect each other, even when we don't always agree with each other. I have to say I'm very concerned about the America that my grandchildren will inherit. We need to change that, and it starts in our hearts, in our homes, and in our hometowns. I ask that you pray for our nation in these difficult times. I'd invite any member of council who wants to make a comment, or you can wait till after council comments. Seeing none? Jose, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There were very ugly scenes we saw last Wednesday in our nation's capital, and we hear, I think, one thing that I've acknowledged over and over in the last couple of decades I've been on this dais is that we recognize our role as legislature of this city. We set the agenda, we set the vision for this city, and I'm proud to say that we haven't forgotten our role here on this dais as long as I've been here, and we've kept it civil. And I think what we did at the beginning of this pandemic, allowing the people, although fewer than normal, to enter our chambers to see how government is done, because I know Councilmember Ashbeck has often said the way we make legislation, or the way government is created, is pretty a messy job, and you know it's something about compromise, it's something about debating, and it's not a pretty sight. But our citizens need to see that reasonable people with difference of opinion can come together in their own buildings and can bring their differing thoughts together and come out with solutions for their cities, their counties, their state, and their nation without having to hurt each other in the process. And that's not what we saw Wednesday, and that's not what, like the mayor says, that's not what we saw over last summer. And that's got to stop. And we all have to call it for what it is. Violence is violence no matter who's doing it, and we have to stop it. Here, March 2nd, we'll have an election here in Clovis, and we need to be transparent so people can know that our elections are transparent, our elections will happen, and no one's favored. If you want to be part of it, participate, go out, do your own due process, and vote for the person you want to represent you. And because no one has anything to hide. Government's what you make of it. You don't need conspiracy theories. You don't need other things that to motivate you to get involved. What needs to motivate you is our Constitution. Our Constitution is very straightforward. That's why our forefathers created it. Lots of good rules. We should be following it instead of trying to hurt each other. It always seems that law enforcement is always on the short end of the stick, be it in the summer or this time on Wednesday. But rest assured that those brave men and women in blue will protect the citizens and make sure that those who don't want to abide by our Constitution, our rules, our law and order, they will be arrested, they will be prosecuted and brought to justice. So we're better than that in America, and we can do a lot better. And in Clovis, I think we have been better because we trust each other and we want the best for our city. I hope the rest of the nation wants the best for our country. Thank you.
Thank you, Jose. Lynn?
I sent myself an email today when I was thinking about your offer, so and I'll probably cry. Are you good? You ready? Brace yourself. Okay, tissues. And this is what came to my mind. So I wrote this to myself. I thought 2020 was the year where we ran out of adjectives. Unprecedented, historical, fast-moving, politicized, life-threatening, all used to describe COVID-19. Yet here we are 11 days into the new year, and that list of adjectives still seems to work. We are all privileged, I think, to have this place to comment on the events of last week. No doubt that every one of us has something they want to say about what happened in the nation's capital, but I'll have two short comments. First, really all there is to say is just as an American, not as a Democrat or Republican or independent or anything else, just as an American. The last time I stood in Statuary Hall, it was 2 days before we buried my father at Arlington National Cemetery. The U.S. Capitol is a meaningful reminder of the sacred role of this country for generations. 4 miles away, the thousands buried at Arlington are testimony to the best of this country, the integrity, the service, the sacrifice, the belief in this country without ever knowing if you were serving with a Republican sailor or a Democratic Marine. And Arlington was about to have one more of those patriots in my father. So the scenes last week were intensely personal for me. And yes, all those adjectives again: unprecedented, history-making, fast-moving, politicized, life-threatening, and sickening, disheartening, frightening, shameful. I watched the scenes on TV and I cried. I want to express my sympathy for the 5 Americans who lost their lives and for the 6th death by suicide of a Capitol police officer whose father was once the sergeant at arms of the very Senate that he was charged to defend. But my opportunity to share these remarks comes because I am, and we all recognize our role as local elected officials. And as a local elected official, I am reminded how lucky we are and of the role of local government, and it's more important than ever. I see this job for me as one of community building, finding those values we share and those things we can effectively control. I'm grateful for the Clovis residents and my colleagues, regardless of politics, that we share values for public safety, good schools, clean neighborhoods, parks, trails, water. For me in this moment, I want to recommit to the notion of local government and local issues, and to make sure that the words I personally use do more to build bridges than to divide people along party lines or any other line we might draw. I agree with my friend Jose, who said the U.S. is better than what we saw last week. Clovis has always been better, and we will stand strong against opposing forces who seek to divide us.
Thank you, Lynn. Seeing no further comments, we will go to public comments. Does any member, this is an opportunity for members of the public to address the City Council on any matter within the Council's jurisdiction that is not listed on the agenda. In order for everyone to be heard, please limit your comments to 5 minutes or less, or 10 minutes per topic. Anyone wishing to be placed on the agenda for a specific topic should contact the City Manager's office and submit correspondence at least 10 days before the desired date of appearance. Does anyone in council chambers wish to address the council on any item not on the agenda? Yes, ma'am. Okay, no hurry.
He's going to help me and deliver a copy of the letter our manager gave us today. I am Brenda Fairless. I live at 647 West Barstow here in Clovis. The last time I was here in August, and my closing statement was, you guys were the reason I lived in Clovis, because when we called you, you came. Well, I'm here to commemorate you on our problem that we've had again. And you just did a sweep in our complex on Saturday, thank God. And it calmed it down a little bit, but now this problem has arisen. When I called in when we had some problems in our courtyard, the dispatch, oh, wait a minute, I'm ahead of myself, sorry. Let me get my notes. You get the compliment, right? But I still have some concerns. When you call the dispatch, they usually tell us that, do we know that it's no longer illegal, like on the drugs, or even on this encampment thing? She said, oh no, that's not our concern. I go, when they're hopping the fence, or they've taken the fence and opened it, and now it's a free-for-all, and they're using our barbecue pit, our laundry, you know, jump in the pool in the middle of this weather, you know, then I think it is your guys's. And she, I don't know who she is. She sounds young on the phone. Or she knows my voice and she just wants to argue with me, I don't know. Anyway, that's one concern. The other concern is the cars that have been parked for months, and one's on Salomar, just shy of Dennis. The other one's right there on Mini Wawa, just before the park. Villa, maybe, just before the park. It's a little sports car. And I called in the night he was trying to push it down the road with no lights or nothing. Anyway, I am one of your graduates from Clovis College thing, and I think that's what caused this. So you guys made me. You're welcome. Anyway, the other thing is the bikes and no lights, or the people walking with dark clothes all around Abe. I even have gone to getting reflection tape, and I'll stop and offer it to them. Most of them don't want to take it. But when I hit it and it breaks my window, or I have a big wreck, then it's all our problems. So maybe your patrol officers, I don't know if they can legally stop them, pull them over, or whatever. The big suggestion is, most of the big cities, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Fresno has it. You call 211 and you can report things like this, and then they'll patrol those hot spots. Or like when you have a whole bunch of parties and a lot of cars. Anyway, that was my suggestion.
Brenda, do you have a smartphone?
No, I do not.
Okay, well, I was going to suggest you download our app.
I have a flip phone.
Okay.
I am poor and needy. That's why I live over there by Salomar.
Thank you, Brenda. Just when you call, if you are not satisfied with the response of the dispatcher, then ask to talk to your dispatch supervisor or the shift supervisor, and they'll resolve that issue for you.
I asked for a name this last time because she really upset me, because they were out there fighting, and I swear they cooked under the bridge, and they weren't cooking dinner. You know, the propane and the sulfur smell was horrendous.
Thank you. Thank you, Brenda.
Oh, you're welcome.
Any other member of the public in chambers wish to address the council on any item not on the agenda? Seeing none, do we have anybody on the web?
Yes, we have one, Jenny Ann Kren. Jenny, you are unmuted.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
All right. My name is Jenny Ann Kren. I live at 3282 Bullard. I'm a 20-year resident of Clovis and I had a business on Pulaski Avenue until my retirement in 2016. And I'm speaking regarding the events at the United States Capitol on January 6th. First of all, listening to your comments, I do not think it helps anybody to say both sides do it. This was a specific act of insurrection against the United States. It was an attempt to overthrow a legal and certified election. While I acknowledge that the demonstrations grew out of a movement of anger and agitation in many parts of the country since the election, it was fed by systematic lies from Donald Trump, from social media, QAnon and others, and news channels, certain news channels. We have local organizers of demonstrations locally who have posted on social media and encouraged supports and actions in the Capitol. Several of our local organizers were, in fact, in DC for the uprising, and this was in the Fresno Bee. At least 2 members of the City Council have attended local demonstrations recently, lending support of the City of Clovis in their roles by being there. And it's lending support to the idea that the election somehow was fraudulent. I'm asking the City Council to pass a resolution condemning the actions of the uprising in the Capitol and affirming the results of the November election. I think this will help to tamp down further escalations in this kind of movement and demonstrations. We have a rough week or two ahead of us with the inauguration of the new president, Joe Biden, and I think we need to be very cognizant of that. So I ask you to pass a resolution about those issues. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Do we have anybody else online?
Yes, we have Michael Reckheimer.
Good evening, sir.
Hello, good evening. I appreciate you taking the time. I submitted a form to ask for information last May 18th City Council meeting, and I've submitted a form earlier today as well. I'm quite interested on knowing what the City of Clovis, what action they may be taking with the problem that has arisen early last year regarding the closure of the Enterprise Trail between Fowler Avenue and Sunnyside Avenue, where the local residents there had gated the canal and had stopped people from traversing on their bicycles or walking from east to west or west to east in northern Clovis to be able to be on the Dry Creek Trail. The form that I submitted today, I wanted to ask, back in May, the comments that I had received by email in response to my questions at the time that came from John Holt, stated that that you guys would be or are looking into the hazard. It's an extreme hazard if you're aware of Shepherd Avenue. The stretch of Shepherd Avenue that is parallel just north of the Enterprise Trail is a very narrow 50-mile-per-hour two-lane road that has no bike trail on it. It's even difficult for, I think, large vehicles to pass both ways. And with the closure of the trail, with the closure of Enterprise Trail, that forces bicyclists or pedestrians who want to go over to Dry Creek Trail from the east to be able to take pleasure in that park alone. And I wanted to ask what follow-up has taken place since May by the City Council to address that with Fresno.
Thank you, Mr. Reckhammer. Luke, do you want to address that very quickly?
Yes, so first of all, that was never a trail. It was a canal bank that was utilized as such, but it's not part of the trail. That's actually outside our city limits, as is that section of Shepherd Avenue. We continue to work with property owners, with the county, with FID to try to get a connection back through there, and also with the county as to how we're going to make a connection along Shepherd. The ultimate build-out of the plan calls for a bike lane along the south side of Shepherd Avenue through that stretch. However, that is dependent on the eventual widening and completion of Shepherd Avenue, which is somewhat tied to development. So at this stage, that's not going to happen for a while. But we are working with the county on possibly routing the trail elsewhere. We have we put a turnaround on the canal trail so that it doesn't just dead in there. It kind of leads them back over to Fowler Avenue. That's not, I know people want to get across there, but we're trying to work with a lot of partners here because it's really outside our jurisdiction. So that's where we're at. We continue to work on it. I don't see it being resolved super quick, but we are making as much progress as we can on the matter.
Thank you, Luke. Mike, if you have a quick follow-up on that, or are you
yes.
up to date on where we're at?
Yes, I do, please. I'm just concerned. My family that lives on the east side of that area there, we're unable to, now bike across. My address is Clovis, California, not Fresno, California, and I live beside Shepherd. So I understand that there might be a I don't know, a zoning or jurisdiction issue here, but if I would just like that this be added as an important item for the council to take care of and regularly take care of. I don't seem to feel like I'm being heard.
Thank you. Thanks, sir. I think we all understand what you're talking about. This land sits outside of the city of Clovis. It's actually in the county, even though you have a Clovis address. And as this is brought into it's within our sphere of influence, but not within the city limits, portions of it anyway. And as we annex property and bring it into the city, the improvements that'll be made will be made through development fees, because we want development to pay their way. So there's going to be no quick resolution to this, unfortunately, but staff is working on arrangements with the irrigation district and property owners that maybe we can come up with some type of mitigation that'll get us through and make things safer to address the issues you're talking about.
Sir, I thank you for your time. I thank you for your time.
I just want to add, Mike, if you don't mind, this is Bob Whalen with the Clovis City Council. I know it feels like you're not being heard, and I'm sorry that you feel that way, but I want you to know that you are being heard, that there is a great deal of frustration about the bit of the shock that took place when the fences went up and how that was handled by the landowners there. It has created a great deal of frustration in our broader community and also with your council. Just because we're not telling you all of the, of what is going on in the background does not mean that you are not being heard. There has been a lot of activity going on in the background, but there are limitations that, both legal and jurisdictionally, that we are trying to process and work through. So I don't want you to, you've probably experienced enough frustration by not being able to have you and your family get on that canal bank, but you know, the frustration is shared up here at the council as well as in the broader community. You have been heard, okay?
Thank you very much for your time, and I hope you're all safe.
Thank you, sir. We have anybody else on the web?
No.
Mr. Clerk, I noticed we have some correspondence. Mr. Reckhammer was one of them. Are any other requests that any of these be read?
No.
Okay, so and we have no other comments that have come in other than these?
And the only thing I would add is going to be, as the gentleman was saying, is going to be that I do my best to respond to these, or at least acknowledge, and if they want to follow up, they follow up through me, and then I pass it off to the appropriate staff.
Great, thank you. I'll close public comments and come to the ordinances and resolutions. With respect to the approval of ordinances and resolutions, the reading of the title shall be deemed a motion to waive a reading of the complete resolution or ordinance, and unless there is a request by a council member that the resolution or ordinance be read in full, further reading of the resolution and ordinance shall be deemed waived by the unanimous consent of the council. Consent calendar. These are items considered routine in nature are to be placed upon the consent calendar. They will all be considered and voted upon in one vote as one item unless a council member requests individual consideration. A council member's vote in favor of the consent calendar is considered and recorded as a separate affirmative vote in favor of each action listed. Motions in favor of the adoption of the consent calendar are deemed to include a motion to waive the reading of any ordinance or resolution on the consent calendar. For adoption of ordinances, only those that have received a unanimous vote upon introduction are considered consent items. We have 3 items on the consent calendar, but we're going to be pulling item number...
I want to clarify.
I'm sorry,
that.
go ahead. Go ahead, Jose.
I don't think I'm going to pull it per se. What I do want to announce is that I believe that I do have a conflict with number 3 because it involves my employer remotely, but it does involve my employer because I am the chief of police of State Center Community College District. And therefore, I'll abstain from number 3 and I'll remain on the dais. So I'll abstain from voting on number 3, but I'll vote on all the other ones.
Great.
And without pulling it.
Okay. Any member of council wish to have any item on the consent calendar pulled? Seeing Ben?
Gonna make your motion
Oh,
for you.
all right.
I'm ready.
Okay. Anyone in chambers wish to have an item on the consent calendar pulled? Seeing none, we have anybody on the web?
No.
And Mr. Clerk, we got no correspondence?
No.
Okay, we'll come back for Lynn.
So in order to accommodate your request, I'll make a motion that we approve consent items number 2 and 4.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously.
And then I'll also make an a motion that we approve consent calendar item number 3.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion passes 4-0, 1 abstention. Administrative items. Administrative items are matters on the regular city council agenda other than public hearings. Item 5, consider various actions associated with CIP 18-12, Fire Station number 6, located near the intersection of Loma Vista Parkway and Encino Avenue near the center of Loma Vista Community Center South. Item 1 is consider approval for the City Council to award a contract for construction of the Fire Station number 6 to Seals Construction Incorporated in the amount of $5,308,040, and 2, consider approval for the City Council to authorize the city manager to execute the contract on behalf of the city, and consider approval a request to authorize staff to develop an agreement memorializing a $5 million inter-fund loan from the Water Fund to the General Government Services Fund to finance the construction of Fire Station Number 6. Thad Avery is our presenter. Thad.
Good evening, Mayor Bessinger and City Council. I'm Thad Avery, the Community Investment Program Manager for the City of Clovis. Tonight, I'll be presenting to you the council various items associated with Fire Station 6, located on the northwest corner of Loma Vista Parkway and Encino Avenue in the Loma Vista community area. First item to consider approval is to award a construction contract to the lowest bidder, Seals Construction, Inc., for Fire Station 6 in the amount of $5,308,040. The second item is to consider approval for the City Council to authorize the City Manager to execute the Fire Station 6 contract on behalf of the City. And the final item is to consider approval to authorize staff to develop an agreement memorializing a $5 million inter-fund loan from the Water Fund to the General Government Services Fund to finance the construction of Fire Station 6. Fire Station 6 site is located on the northwest corner of Loma Vista Parkway and Encino Avenue. The project includes construction of a new fire station building, a communication tower, and all utilities and surface improvements on site. In July 2020, a project was awarded by Council to construct the off-site improvements for Fire Station 6, and that project has completed the utilities required for connection of the fire station site. And the Loma Vista Parkway street improvements will be completed in the next few weeks for connection of the site to Leonard Avenue. The Fire Station 6 project was advertised in November of 2020 with a bid opening on December 22nd of 2020, and we received 6 bids. The low bidder is Seals Construction, Inc. at $5,277,120. And for this project, the low bid was determined by the base bid and all alternates in the bid proposal. The bid proposal has 5 alternates and 5 add alternates and 3 deductive alternates. Staff is recommending Council to remove the 3 deductive alternates from the award and award a contract to Seals Construction, Inc. for $5,308,040. That includes the base bid and all 5 add alternates. The construction estimate provided by the architect for this project was $8.2 million. To finance the construction of Fire Station 6, staff is recommending a $5 million loan from the Water Fund to the General Government Services Fund. The TCP reserve will be the proposed source in the Water Fund, and borrowing from the reserve will not hinder or delay any TCP projects or lead to any kind of operational driven rate increase. The loan will be paid back with interest from the future fire department development impact fees. And based on current impact fee estimates, the loan will be for a term not to exceed 10 years. So in conclusion, staff recommends for the 3 action items are for the City of Clovis Council to award a contract for the construction of Fire Station 6 to Seals Construction, Inc. in the amount of $5,308,040. For the City Council to authorize the City Manager to execute the contract on behalf of the City. And for the City Council to authorize staff to develop an agreement memorializing a $5 million inter-fund loan from the Water Fund to the General Government Services Fund to finance the construction of Fire Station 6. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? Lynn?
Just a point of clarification. I don't know that I've heard these terms before, and if you could define them would be awesome. An additive alternate number and a deductive alternate item. And so, can you just say what that means? I mean, I kind of understand the words, obviously, but I'm not sure what they mean in the context of this bid.
So on a bid, when we're unsure if the bids are going to come in high, we always, or low, we'll put in add alternates or deductive alternates. What they are is an add alternate is adding something to the project that costs more money that we might want to add if we get favorable bids. A deductive
Oh, I
alternate is subtracting something from the original bid that we might want to use if the bids come in too high.
I see. And so you are recommending that because the bid was reasonable or favorable or whatever the adjective is in that moment, you're recommending adding the alternate items 1, 2, and 3, and awarding the bid in the amount of whatever you just said. $5,308,000.
We're recommending the add alternates 1 through 5 and not having the deductive alternates
Sorry.
1, 2, 3.
Got it. I'm sorry. I didn't turn the page fast enough. Got it. Okay. Thank you. That helps. Thanks.
Any other questions for staff? Bob?
Yeah, I want to pick up where Lynn was going. It was a pretty close bid process. I'm glad that we had as many bidders as we had. I'm super glad we came in under what you referred to as architect's estimate, not in our paperwork says engineer's estimate. So it was the architect who said it was going to cost this much?
Correct.
Okay. You're off the hook, Mike, on that one. So the two lowest bids are separated by $20,000, and then we go through the process of the deductive alternates and the additive alternates. And I want to focus a little bit on fairness of process. And so when we see Seals Construction come in at $20,000 less than Mark Wilson Construction, what we are seeing is just that base bid, but it also says, at least in our paperwork, it says plus all alternates. And so if that seems a little bit different than what I normally see, is the plus all alternates, whether it's eliminating the deductive alternate or adding the additive alternate. So I guess I want to make sure that we're fair on particularly a very close bid like this one, and I just want to understand that process, because if we didn't have the alternates in there, would Seals Construction still have been the lowest bidder?
I completely understand the question. Yes, they would still be the low bidder. So what happens in our bid package is we state how we're going to award the project, and most of the time we will award a project on a base bid only. For this instance, we had the award stated as base bid plus all alternates.
Okay.
For your information, the bid was actually even closer on the base bid than it was with all the alternates, and it actually changed the order too if we awarded on base bid. But Seals was still the low bidder in all cases, so there was no confusion when it came to that.
Okay. I'm thankful for Seal being the lowest bidder on both occasions. Then I wanted to know, I don't know who would know the answer to this question, how much money do we have in the water fund presently?
So I think the total water fund has approximately $40 million in it.
Okay.
Possibly even more, possibly up to 50. Within the water fund, we have the TCP awards that we won in the lawsuits that are being reserved for TCP treatment in the future. And then we have the operating dollars that come in to pay for operating costs. We anticipate the loan coming from the TCP settlement and not impacting the actual operating plus or minus balance at all. And we have looked at, and so there were $15 million in TCP reserves, and looking at when we're going to need that, we anticipate being able to make this loan and pay it back well before it's ever needed for TCP treatment. And one of the advantages of taking it, rather than going out for a bond on this, by taking it from the TCP, since this loan is paid back by development impact fees, when we have higher development than our baseline that we anticipate, which is we have had for the last 3 years running, we would be able to pay this back actually sooner. when we have more revenue coming in, whereas with a bond, you don't have that flexibility. You just have to continue carrying that bond through its full term, or if you try to negotiate for a rapid payoff, it ends up costing you in your interest rates. So this will not impact really the operations of the water account at all.
And what was the interest, do you remember the interest rate? It may have been stated and I just didn't hear it well.
It's
What was it?
0.52,
0.52%? Okay.
less than 1%.
Oh, I see it there. And that's the LAIF rate? Okay.
And that is where the money that we're holding in our enterprise funds gets invested anyway. So it would be earning that if it wasn't used for this, it's going to be earning it from this interfund loan.
Okay. All right, so so the way I'm understanding this is that the drawdown of the water fund because of the TCP is not going to be impacting in any meaningful way as far as from a practical perspective, the water fund and what that water fund was designed to do. In addition to that, instead of the interest going to bond holders, or issuing a bond, which would also have some additional fees associated with it that the banker would receive, the investment banker would receive, we are going to be able to save those fees and then also pay interest, not to bondholders, but actually to the citizens of the city of Clovis through this water fund, I would say.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any other questions for staff? Ron? Luke, jump on those questions on the water fund. So how much were the TCP funds again that potentially is there? We're loaning now $5 million?
The total TCP settlement from both cases is about $15 million.
Okay. Help me understand again. So if it was still in the water funds and we invested it, what's the current return? Is it just 0.52?
Correct.
It's that low. I thought it was around 2%, or is that just the other funds that I've seen that was at the 2.5%?
Some of the other funds, and we have a wide portfolio of different funds, and some of them are invested in longer-term instruments, but the enterprise funds are typically, and Jay is here, he can probably add some more, are typically kept in the LAIF for liquidity, and there's probably some rules about that. They're not mixed with the other city non-enterprise funds.
Okay. So in other words, like sort of what Councilman Whalen was saying, we're getting the same return. That's why we're charging that interest. Okay. All right. And we don't have projects for water, probably 10 years, you're saying less, that will need these funds. That's why we are comfortable loaning these currently.
Correct. We don't have any TCP projects. We will have other projects for water, but we're keeping this really for TCP. That was the purpose of the settlement, was to pay for the damages caused by the TCP contamination. So we were keeping this money set aside to pay for mitigation measures to correct that TCP problem. Borrowing this money and with the payback schedule will not impact any of the timing of those projects at all. So when we got this settlement, it was for the lifetime, forever. This is all the money we're ever going to have for TCP projects. They assume that some of them are projected out 20, 30 years in the future. Borrowing this money will not impact those projects.
And then the collection of the impact fees, there's no restriction in where we allocate the impact fees that are collected. In other words, it's not where, let's say this coming year we collect $1 million. There's nothing in that says it has to go for whatever. And so in other words, we can use the collection of the impact fees to pay for debt, is kind of my question.
Well,
so there's no restriction, or is there one where if there is a certain need, potentially the impact fees collected may have to be diverted to do what it's collected for and not be able to pay the Just debt payment.
This is the fire impact fee.
Okay.
So it is restricted to paying
fire.
for certain fire capital improvements associated with growth. New fire engines, new fire stations, new equipment that's necessary to address growth, not for replacement.
Okay.
It's just, and to very simplify how that fee works, if you look at a fire station is going to serve 10,000 residences, and that new fire station, along with the new engine and the new equipment and everything that goes in it, is going to cost $10 million. You would divide, okay, it's a $10 million cost divided, and it's going to serve 10,000 residences. So the fire station fee is $1,000 per residence, and then that's how you build that up. So it is restricted in that it has to be spent on fire capital projects associated with growth, which this is. But there's nothing else in the pipeline that is in fire associated growth that we're going to have to divert this funds for. So
Okay.
it will go toward it.
So, okay. And let me see. I think that's all I have. Thank you so much.
Any other questions for staff? Seeing none?
Mr. Mayor, the only thing I was going to add was going to be that this evening, we're only asking for a proof of the concept of the interfund loan. If you approve the concept, we'll be coming back next month with an actual agreement.
Okay. No other questions for staff from council? Openness to the public. Any member of the public in council chambers wish to address the council on this item? Seeing none, do we have anybody online?
No.
Mr. Clerk, do we get any written correspondence?
No.
Okay, I'll close public comment and come back to council for action or discussion.
I'll make a motion that we award the contract for the construction of Fire Station 6 to Seals Construction, Inc. in the amount of $5,308,040.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously.
I'll move that we authorize the city manager to execute the contract on behalf of the city.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously.
And finally, I'll move that we authorize staff to develop an agreement memorializing a $5 million interfund loan from the Water Fund to the General Government Services Fund to finance construction of Fire Station 6.
I'll second that. We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Item 6, and apparently a big night for the fire department. Consider various actions associated with Fire Station Number 2 located at 2300 Minnewawa Avenue. Receive and file status update on Fire Station 2 and action plan. Okay, yep. Consider approval of a resolution amending the General Government Services budget and authorizing a transfer from the General Fund to the General Government Services Fund in the amount of $955,300, and consider approval of waiving the formal bidding process and award architectural, engineering, and construction management contract services, and authorizing the city manager to execute the contracts on behalf of the city. Mike Harrison is our presenter. Mike.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. This is a follow-up to the item that council heard on October 5th that was presented by Chief Banaski regarding the condition of the existing fire station. This is the location of the fire station. It's located on the west side of Minnewawa, in the rear of the commercial area, just there north of Sunnyside. So to recap Chief Banaski's report, the existing building was constructed back in 1978. In recent years, the building began developing signs of distress, and earlier this year, staff discovered some broken structural members up in the attic of the fire station. Staff retained the services of Associated Design and Engineering to do a detailed visual inspection and to determine the amount of deficiencies or the extent of the deficiencies that were in the building. Now, when Chief Banaski reported to you in October, the estimate was, I think, $500,000. He stated that was just a rough. It was staff's best guess, but we had the engineer go back and do an estimate for us, and the cost is closer to $1 million for those deficiencies. So again, the next step was Chief Banaski's report, I do want to add that the $1 million does not include anything that might be discovered if we were to decide to go ahead and repair the existing station. Nor does it include any upgrades that are currently needed and that we were in the process of planning for at the station. So the conclusion of the October 5th meeting was council gave staff general directions to move forward with the construction of the new station. And here are some excerpts from the presentation that was shown to council on October 5th, showing some of the exterior damage. You can see the supports inside the apparatus bay there that are holding the building up. And the next picture has some, the next slide has some slides showing some of the structural members that are broken. And John, if you can move to the next slide. Okay. So staff is proposing to move forward with a two-phased approach to replacing the building. The first phase would be to construct a metal building at the city's Lind Avenue Fire Training Facility site. The long-term use of this building would be for training for the fire department. It would be a training venue. But initially, the building would house the Fire Station 2 staff while the new station is being constructed. The estimated cost for this training facility would be $1.6 million, and we're estimating completion by the spring of 2022. And again, it would be used for a training facility. The second phase will be, John, if you can move to the next slide, would be to raise the existing station and construct a new station on the existing site. The building would be of a high quality, not second rate, and it would be designed to fit the character of the area. The estimated cost of the new station, again, it's $8.3 million. We're stating that amount because there's some demolition involved. And I know we just saw bids that were quite a bit lower than that, but we don't know what the market's going to do in the next year or so. We're going to continue to estimate at the $8.3 million. We want to time that so that the demolition contractor is ready to hit the ground as soon as the personnel are moved out of the existing station. Next slide, John. So we want to move forward as quickly as we can in order to avoid any additional expenses on the existing station. So in order to move forward as quickly as possible, we would like to utilize the services of the existing team that we have for Fire Station 6, which was Taylor Group and Vanner Construction Management. The total cost of all of the design and construction management services is estimated at $1.4 million. John? So, we're asking the council to provide the additional funding from the general fund in the amount of about $1 million. The additional amount will be made up through project savings from other projects that were planned for a total of $1.4 million. We're also asking for a waiver of the formal bidding process so that we can proceed with the design services as quickly as possible. And staff received, and council, I think you have a copy of a comment that came in asking questions about the formal bidding process. What is the formal bidding process? Normally, if we were going to go out for a project like this at a cost in this range, we would issue an RFP, and we would receive proposals from multiple architectural firms. We would review them for the most qualified, and then we would negotiate with that firm to arrive at a price, and then we would award on that basis.
Mike, if you don't mind, can you just elaborate a little bit the distinction then? Because what we went through with the Station 6 was the lowest bidder wins. Just to clarify, was that an RFP or was that not an RFP?
Yeah, for Fire Station 6, we went through the whole process. We issued an RFP, and with design services like this, it's not the lowest bid. It's the most qualified bidder. You select based on objective criteria that are in the request for proposals, and then you negotiate a price with that winning firm. So Taylor and Vanner won on the basis of their qualifications for the project.
And what we just covered here at the City Council meeting then was not a request for design services. What are we calling it? Architectural and design services?
It's basically the design services, yeah.
Okay,
it's engineering. It's consultant services.
Okay, so what we just went through with Station 6 was not, and when I say what we just went through, what I mean what we just handled tonight, that was not an RFP process.
No, that was a bidding process for a construction project as opposed to design services.
And we did go through an RFP with Station 6 earlier. This was before, and it wasn't on tonight's agenda, but it was handled at a separate event. And there we did the RFP, and it wasn't whoever was the lowest bidder, it was the person that the city believed was the most qualified.
Correct.
And that's the distinction between RFP and our more traditional bidding process. The RFP is we're looking for the most qualified. This bidding process, like we went through earlier, that we're looking for the lowest price.
Correct.
Okay. All right, thank you for answering that question. I think you had some other questions as well.
And the second question is, why does the city engineer want to change the process? It's simply in the interest of getting out there and getting started as soon as possible. That's it.
And I'm sorry, I just want to follow up again on that. And the process that we have changed is that we did not go out for an RFP. We are saying, at least for station number 2, we are simply saying we went out for an RFP on Station 6, and when we went out for an RFP on Station 6, the most qualified bidder was Taylor and Vanner. Is it pronounced Vanner?
Yes.
And so we don't want to go through that process again because we have a sense of urgency based on some of the photographs we saw related to Station 2. To go out for an RFP would take more time. About how much more time would going out for an RFP take?
It would take, I mean, we would certainly fast track it, but it's going to take 2 to 3 months longer.
Okay. All right. And so we believe that there is value in skipping the RFP process for station number 2 because we just went through it and Taylor Vannier won. They're familiar with this design that we want to have for station number 2, and so it seems like we'd be able to get a pretty good, or at least a quick response from them and get this project moving forward. Am I tracking it right?
That's correct. Yeah. You
okay.
got it.
All right. Thank you for that one. I guess there was a third question as well.
Would it result in less competition? I suppose that could be argued that additional firms would not be able to compete for this particular project.
And I'm sorry, I'm going to jump in again. And on that question 3, it's referring to a bidding process. And
right.
And this is not a bidding process. This is an RFP process.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And I believe, for now, that concludes my comments. I'll entertain any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? Jose?
So just the fact that the city wants to expedite, that meets all legal requirements for not requiring an RFP?
You got it.
There is a process to waive it, and the council certainly has the discretion to waive it. I think as the discussion between Councilman Whalen and Mike
yeah,
indicated.
I don't think that question was asked
Right.
specifically.
The-
Does it meet the criteria set by the law that we can waive an RFP? Have we done all the things that are legally required to waive the RFP?
Yes, we have flexibility. The council has flexibility. It's a little bit different than the sealed bid process for construction. It's governed strictly by state law, as opposed to the selection of consultants like architects and engineers. The city sets the rules basically in your municipal code, and the council has the authority to waive that under certain circumstances. And that's what the staff report, and I think the discussion has indicated.
And when Mike's report mentioned familiarity with our needs, the need for expeditious project, those things contribute to make it legal.
Correct. Similar design. We also just recently went through the competitive process, if you want to call it the competitive process, on the
So we can
Station 6
piggyback
design.
on a prior bid process.
Well, you can rely on that, yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
okay.
and again, I think it's important to note, again, for selection of consultants like architects and engineers, you're not strictly looking at price alone. So there's a
It's
difference in
quality,
that.
it's a value.
Correct,
So when we take all that into account, we're legal.
correct.
Bong? I think Jose asked a lot of my concerns. So, the challenge, I know we can always be sued for anything, but the challenge is that you are pretty confident we will be able to defend and be able to, defend a suit if someone, another consultant agency or something challenges our process.
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that.
When?
Thanks, Drew. Okay. Let's just keep beating this horse till I get it right. So I don't think we did an RFP on Station 6. I think we did do one. The chief is nodding his head. I don't hear that. I feel like we took the, sorry, Station 2. I feel like we took the work on Station 6 and just applied it to Station 2. So we didn't do a separate RFP for Station 2. We're just saying we did this for 6, so we're just gonna make the assumptions that it's gonna work for Station 2. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. My question is, how did you say it, Vanner or?
It's Vanner.
Vanner. So Vanner didn't compete for the construction of Station 6, right?
They did.
But they weren't on the list?
So the purchasing procedures allow for the council on an annual basis to establish a list of consultants that can do design services. And if for budgeted projects, staff has the ability to select from that list and move forward with that consultant. So
Vanner's on that list.
Vanner is not on that list. So we would normally have to go through an RFP, some sort of competitive process to hire them if it's above a certain dollar amount. By virtue of this becoming a budgeted project tonight, I think staff would have the ability to move forward and select from the list to get the design services.
But they're not on the list.
We wouldn't have that option with Vanner, but putting all that aside, we did go through a competitive process with both Vanner and the Taylor Group for Station 6, which caused them to provide the design for Station 6, and we want to use that same design with some minor modifications. It's going to give us a more expedient design time, as well as getting them started quicker.
So Taylor and Vanner did the design work on 6, and Seals is going to build 6.
Right.
And Taylor and Vanner did this.
So
But we're giving Taylor and Vanner both the design and construction of 2.
No. So.
Yeah,
So Taylor does the design. He actually creates the drawings and the specifications. Vanner will come in and provide the construction management
Services, which is an engineering service. They do value engineering, they do all of the logistics
Okay.
during construction. But part of the value of doing that and having a construction management consultant is that they work alongside the architect during design so that they can actually design the value engineering into the project as it goes through the design process. It worked very well for Station 6. We would like to use it for Station 2.
So wait, don't leave me. So now my papers are all upside down. That's why I shouldn't have paper. Oh, Bob. Oh, man. What we're approving tonight then is not the construction of 2, it's just the design or it is the design and the build.
It's the consultant services and the construction oversight, so to speak, services. We will actually go out to bid next year when the station is vacated and come back to council with an item just like Station 6 was tonight, where we have a low bidder and we'll be recommending for award.
Jose, did you have some input?
So Mike, what we did earlier for 6, we still can do it. We're going to do that after these people do their work, right?
Yes.
There'll be a whole bidding process for the actual construction. Taylor's going to design it, and that other company is going to manage the construction. So they're just consultants.
Right.
So that's all we're approving today. One to design and the other one to be a project manager.
So the total value of this request is
$1 million.
$955,000?
So we're asking for approval for $1.4 million for both Banner and Taylor Group for this year so that we can get started. It's not in the budget. We need to do a budget amendment to get that started. We will be, when we prepare the budget, we will be including an item for the construction of the, probably the training facility, and we'll probably have in a future year the construction of Station 2, which will be in the neighborhood of $8 million.
Plus the amount to build the metal building, the soon-to-be future training building.
Correct.
So how much is that? Like, was that
I think it was about $1.3 million for the building.
So we're talking a $10 million between the construction rebuild of Station 2, the metal building that's going to be the replacement, and the design construction costs. We're talking about $10 million?
Yes.
But tonight we're not doing the whole $10 million. We're just doing what he said.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Is there a reason why I'm having a little trouble with? So I have 2 problems. One, we have I don't think that station, whatever those things were that were holding up the roof, that horrifies me. I mean, can that last till the summer of 2022? I guess I worry about that. So there's that. But why can't we do something to build the metal temporary structure, the metal training facility, and relocate while we do some more competitive work on Banner? I'm just not quite sure how you give away how you allow an $8 million expenditure just because right now we're right here. I'm confused. I'm not tracking this. Sorry.
So, okay, to back up, and I'm going to put on my old past life hat. Before I ever came to the city, I was engineering supervisor for the southern half of the state of California, CAL FIRE. Okay. So maintaining and building fire stations is what I did. Backing up about 2 years ago, I was out at Station 2, and I was looking around that building going, we're in trouble. One, it only has 1 bathroom. It was built before we had mixed gender crews. It's not ADA compliant. And I'm looking at some signs of some structural problems, and that's why I actually included in this year's budget a funding for some capital needs assessment. And that was the impetus behind that, is because I said, we got to get an idea on what we need to do down the road. We have a 42-year-old station that's going to need replacement. Fast forward to a few months ago when we found out it's basically falling down. So the USAR team went out there and shored it up. So it is structurally sound at this point. It's not going to fall down on them in the time being. Yes. But we hired the engineer to do the evaluation, and as Mike has said, he found about $1 million worth of repairs that we need to make. And that's what we can see. And you have to understand, as soon as we start pulling stuff off, we find more things and that cost goes up. So it's going to be more than $1 million. And even then, we have a station that doesn't meet ADA, so you have to spend a certain amount of money on ADA as soon as you hit a threshold. And we have a station that doesn't meet current demand and doesn't provide for mixed gender crews. So you get to the point where we would just be throwing money away to sink money into that building. So what we want to do is, with the shoring that has been done, and maybe a little bit of small fixes here that we'll do through our facilities maintenance budget, to keep that station whole while we go build them this temporary facility. $1.4 million. Correct. So what Mike's bringing forth tonight is just, we want to get started on this right now. We had nothing in the budget for any of these projects. So this is the money that we're asking for now is for the current year budget to get us started on the design and construction management, because it's construction management, but as Mike says, they help manage the entire project even through the design phase. That's not a public works contract. That is not required to be a low bid. That is done by RFP, and what you have to realize is that we just did an RFP for the design and construction management of a fire station a year and a half ago, and the most qualified candidate was Taylor and Vanner. And they have done a great job. We're happy. They have all of our specs. They have all of our needs, all of our programmatic needs dialed in. Even if we were to take the time to go out and do an RFP, it would be very hard for someone else to say, I'm more qualified to design your fire station than the guy who just designed the fire station for the Clovis City Fire Department. So what we're asking for is that we don't go out and do the RFP, that we just award to the people, dovetailing and piggybacking off the RFP that we did a year and a half ago, get them on the design. Then we will come forward for next budget with budgeting for the construction of the temporary facility. And then once we have the temporary facility built, we will move the crew in there so that we can scrape and build the old station. If you try to rebuild a fire station while keeping it in operation, the costs and complications skyrocket. I've done it, and your hands are tied on many things. You can't just, we're going to put this utility trench across the front and leave it open until, for 3 days. Well, you can't do that. You have to keep that fire station in business. So that's when we came up with the idea of putting it out at the training facility with this temporary building that then we can use as a classroom, which is one of our long-term goals out there. But put them operating out of there, and then we'll scrape and build. So we want the design going in parallel to try to get these done as fast as possible, so that we want to get started immediately, so we can get the design of the temporary facility as soon as possible, get them moved in there. By the time we move them in, we hope to have the design of the permanent facility go out for a public works contract for the construction of both these buildings, and get them built and then move back in. So it's not our normal. Normally, we would have been planning this in the future, and we would have had this in the budget, so we wouldn't have been asking for the budget amendment or the budget change, and we would have done the RFP, but this came up all of a sudden, and time is of essence. So that's why we're moving forward.
That does help. The staff report refers to a future bond issuance to pay for this. To pay for this, what is that? Well,
so this unlike Station 6, that's growth developed, and it can be paid for through development impact fees. This is not. So it will have to be paid for, and we don't have $10 million cash to jump out and so we would have to issue a bond that will be a reasonable length of time, much shorter than the length of the facility, but that's a common way to pay for replacement stations like that. But that will be included in the budgeting and in the award and everything when we actually get to that point. Right now, we just want to get us going for the rest of this fiscal year, and then the next year's budget will start having some more of those steps fleshed out.
Okay, and then I have one more comment. I thought it was odd that on one of your earlier slides it was going to be a high quality, not second rate. Why would that enter in? Why would we have that as an option? Like, do it high quality or doing it kind of, what was that about? That seemed odd to me.
I apologize. Those are words I heard from the council on October 5th, so I included them.
Oh, we sound odd to ourselves sometimes. Did I say that? No, I'm just kidding. All right. Could you strike that? Because we wouldn't build a second-rate anything.
But
I'd like to have that, I'd like to have.
I think the council has made comments that that part of town needs to have the standards of civic buildings or civic as good as any part of town.
Okay.
So I think we've given that direction.
Okay, that sounds better than second, just reading it like that, I was like, well, that doesn't, if I live nearby, I wouldn't feel good about that. All right, note to self. Did you say that, Bob?
No, I was going to say if it was you that said it, though, I want to hear the recording soon.
Well, I can't remember it, so probably, but all right, that makes me feel much better. Thank you, both of you. Thanks.
Vaughn.
So, just so that I'm very clear, so I understand A and B, or 1 and 2, so 3 is for 1.4 million approximately, give or take, not the 1.6. That contract that for management, right? Stuff 1.4 million.
So, you're referring to the resolution?
What we're approving, right? So I get A, I get B, C. So Luke's going to be signing a contract on behalf of the city. So we're approving tonight pretty much a 1.4 million authorization.
Yes.
Almost, even though it's not stated here. That's sort of the understanding.
Yeah. So we're gonna use about $440,000 worth of project savings on those other projects, and to make up the difference, we need the additional $955,000.
And then the contract that he will sign with Taylor and them will be for about 1.4, the total.
Hopefully, it's a lot less. That's an estimate.
But it'll actually be two contracts, one with Taylor Group and one with Banner.
Okay. Okay, I just wanted to get the total.
Bob.
Thank you. Mike, I thought that I had read in the documentation that Station 2 was going to be a lot like Station 6 as far as design is concerned. Is that correct? Or is it going to be a whole new type of design?
I think in general, I'd like for Chief Banaski to comment on that. He has a couple of things that he needs to move around.
But we were trying to get out of here before 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
I try to be quick. I really do. So part of where we go, so let me just start here with a little bit of clarification. So we awarded a bid for $5.3 million, but there's fees that we've paid to Taylor Group and Banner and that. So by Station 6, all-in estimates about $8 million is what we'll spend to build Station 6. So that might help clarify where we are. So as we look at 8 to 10, that's where we are based on cost escalations and just not knowing what the market has. We also looked at building a temporary facility out of modules. The construction estimate was a little bit over $1 million. So the thought was if we're going to spend $1 million and then haul it all off, scrape the ground back, or repair the ground for 1.4 to 1.6 to have something that will last us another 20, 30 years just made more sense.
I'm going to stop you right there because I did want to ask you a question related to these training services, because is that going to be a profit center for us in some fashion? I don't want to say profit like corporation, but are we making money by having training taking place at that facility, or are we saving money by having training taking place at that facility?
I would say you save money, not make any money. So instead of us having to send people somewhere, pay for overnight travel, fuel, backfill of time and a half behind them to maintain minimum staffing for the entire shift, we can put them to training during the day. They come back, fill their regular spot on the fire engine in the evening. We don't pay any hotels or things like that. That's where we save money.
Okay.
But we definitely don't make any profit. So there's no profit there.
Okay.
And then when we talk about with Taylor Group and Banner, from the fire side, if someone's been there, outstanding working relationship, caught so many things that we missed as a group of things from our committee as the station committee and stuff, that caught things to really make sure that there wasn't change orders and pieces on the back end which we're hoping not to have to see. So it worked out good by having the construction manager from initial with Taylor Group to walk that whole process through. And I think that Thad would agree that was probably one of the reasons why we had such good competitive bidding, because the bid documents and the drawings were very good. Now, when we talk about the architecture group, if you go back, can we go back to the slide from the fire station one, maybe, the picture? From the bay doors over to the left-hand side there, we are trying not to change anything other than the architectural front. Obviously, the design of Station 6 will not meet the look of Helm Ranch and that in that community. So basically, the 3 bay doors will have some sort of doors that match, and then the left side over there, which is the where we store our turnouts, where we clean our turnouts, the shop and stuff. From that portion over, we don't want to spend any additional money redesigning. Now, obviously, we'll have to design the facade and what the look is to meet and mirror something very nice for the community in the Southwest. But the interior portion of everything that's been spec'd out, we want to make that exactly the same. The difference we have to make of this project is Station 6 sits on a corner, so we actually put this office off to the side. Station 2 sits right on Minnewawa, so we need to move the office to the front. And that's what you're really going to see that. But we will, hopefully through design, we're going to use the exact same layout for all the bedrooms, for the bathrooms, everything that we spec'd all the way down to the paper towel holder, we no longer have to do by using Taylor Group. Again, we've already done all that, so that's where we're hoping to get the savings and also speed the process up so we can bring this in a reasonable amount of time. But that's really where the difference is now what you see is the exterior. We need to do something, obviously, to make it fit the community in the Southwest and something that looks nice down there. But the actual interior, we're just going to move the office to the front and try to keep as much of the interior exactly the same in order to reduce cost.
I want to pick up on something else that you mentioned then, that there are going to be some similarities related to, it's not going to be the same building as station number 6, but there are some similarities, you know, with that they just kind of put together for us for station number 6. The layout of the bedrooms, I think you said the bay doors, the office, it's just going to be situated differently. So I think that, I'm curious as to then, as a result, is it your understanding that we are receiving some cost savings by going with Taylor and Veneer because they just put some of these things together?
I would say Taylor Group is below market average from what I'm aware of as a fire chief of where the normally is at the 10% range of the total cost, and the estimate is below that. Vanner's work of doing all the site specifications and review and stuff is still labor intensive in what they have to do. So I don't think there's a lot of them still having to review all the plans. So I don't necessarily know that there's a lot of savings involved in what they were. But Thad, myself, Dwight, we had an RFQ for the qualifications of the architects. I believe we only had 3 architects that chose to bid Station 6. And I think we only had 2 or maybe 3 for the construction management services. But what we've seen from them is definitely a very good product that we feel comfortable, or else I wouldn't be up here recommending it as the fire chief. So we think it's a good combination. Will get us to the finish line as quickly as possible. Because we've added a lot more that's not on that photo of shoring. So there's more shoring out there than that photo shows right now.
All right. Thank you, Chief, and thank you, Mayor.
Just one question for the
Lynn.
chief. Do our fire stations, like Station 6, have a community room, or have you taken was that only an Old Town feature, or?
We tried it at 1 and 5s, and really, you know how you have that bonus room or some room in your house possibly that some people have to store stuff that probably shouldn't be thrown away or moved on to another location? That is part of what started to collect in the room at 1's downtown. It's just a lack of use. The cost per square foot, there's just probably better ways to maintain it. So we chose not to, based on the limited, if almost no use out of 1 and 5s for the square footage that we put into it.
Thanks.
Any other questions for staff? Chief, when I was the chief in Fowler, they had gotten a grant, I think, from the Department of Agriculture to build their fire facility, and they made it it's a metal building, and it was just in the planning stages when I left there, and I was in Fowler in December, and it's built, and it's a very nice facility. So we can get a metal building. Granted, you're not going to necessarily see it on Lind because of the nature of the facility with the walls, but we can have a training facility we can be proud of too, so that's a good thing.
It does, and some of the savings is currently, as you hear from this project, we have ADA issues. The old Lind shop building that we use for the training room now doesn't have ADA bathrooms, so that's part of the money that once we put this facility in, we don't have to put the ADA bathrooms in there because we'll have ADA bathrooms now on site. So That's why we chose that facility. Putting it at the training center was another reason. Just trying to use some of those funds to put towards, and that's where you're seeing the cost savings, or not the cost savings, but the difference between the 900 some odd thousand and 1.4.
Thank you. Any other questions for staff? Seeing none, I'll open this to the public. Any member of the public in chambers wish to address the council on this item? Seeing none, do we have anybody on the web?
No.
And Mr. Clerk, did we get any other correspondence except for Mr.
Just the one. Just
Okay.
the one you had, but nothing else.
Okay, I will close public comments and come back to council for discussion or for action.
I'll move that we approve the resolution which amends the general government services budget and authorizes a transfer from the general fund to the general government services fund in the amount of $955,300.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
I move that we approve the waiving of the formal bidding process and award the architectural engineering and construction management contract services and authorize the city manager to execute the contracts on behalf of the city.
I'll also second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much, and it'll be a great improvement for the fire service. So, great.
Now we come to the workshop for the city of Clovis to conduct a workshop to discuss the impact on ongoing city operations during the COVID-19 state of emergency as declared by the federal government, state of California, county of Fresno, and city of Clovis, and to explore actions the city may take in response to the crisis. Luke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Show you some data on where we're at. This is the day-over-day new cases in the state of California as of yesterday. Yesterday, they had almost 40,000 new cases in California, a total of 2.7 million since the pandemic began. You can see that the bulk of those have occurred in the last month or so as this the winter wave that is following the 1918 pandemic waves. You know, it's smaller, maybe not as high, but the timing of it is just about the same. It's rather eerie to look back at the 1918 flu pandemic and compare the numbers and the waves with what we're seeing. And this is Fresno County. Fresno County spiked way up about a month ago. They're down somewhat, total of there are 805 new cases in Fresno County yesterday, and a total of 75,621 to date. This is Clovis's numbers by week, and you can see that we have also spiked up following Fresno County. The last week there is not a complete. That number is not for the complete week, so it will undoubtedly be higher when we get the first, next time when I give you this presentation. Fresno County deaths, total of 711 deaths in the county over the life of the pandemic. At least as far as the state is reporting, 0 deaths in Fresno County in the last week, which is, that's great news. But as you can see looking at this graph, it comes in spikes. So this is still a very serious situation. Clovis deaths, this is the data showing what we've had over the last several weeks. We had 3, these two numbers. The county is changing their database, so they don't always report to me weekly. Usually they used to, so if they tell me we had this many and, I know I had that many, I had 3 deaths during that week, but they missed a week here, so all I know is I had 3 weeks. I had 3 deaths during this 2-week period, so those numbers could be reversed. It could be 2 or 1 or whatever, but now I did get a verbal indication for Clovis for this past week. I got it at probably late in the day today, probably 4:30. I responded back to the county for confirmation on it. It would be the bar after this bar, and that number was 25, which is staggering when you consider the worst week we've had so far was 10. To have 25 deaths in Clovis in 1 week is a staggering jump. Again, that's unconfirmed, and I'll have more information when we next meet. This is the hospitalization with the blue representing the confirmed and the confirmed plus suspected cases that are hospitalized, COVID cases that are hospitalized. You can see that we continue to stay very high on that, much higher than our summer peak was. And the red is the confirmed and suspected ICU cases. Again, this is, we are facing critical shortage. The state is reporting 0 ICU bed availability for the Central Valley region, and there's a critical shortage of personnel, bed space, just to treat these patients. Currently, the county has 61.6 adjusted new cases per 100,000 population. That's an increase. I think last week that number was down in the 50s. The positivity rate has gone up about 1% since I last reported to you, to 17% positivity rate. And then the health equity quartile positivity rate is at 17.9%, which is just a slightly below what it was the last time I reported. It was 18.5, but that's probably just within statistical analysis. We remain in the purple tier. As I stated earlier, the state is reporting 0% ICU bed availability for the region, and the stay-home order remains in effect. Vaccinations are continuing. They have, under the tiered system, they have, I know that they are in frontline medical workers that are not in a hospital, because my wife got vaccinated last Wednesday. So they are doing those individuals now. I know they also are doing the, probably maybe done doing the skilled nursing facilities and the congregate living facilities. And then we'll be moving on into the next tier soon as the vaccine is available. So that's where we're at on that, and I'm available if you have any questions.
Any questions for Luke?
I'm so nervous about that 25 deaths in the last week. Did COVID go through a retirement home or convalescent home?
I know that we had some outbreaks a while back in Clovis. Again, that's unconfirmed, and guessing where it's coming from or why it got reported. It would be pure conjecture. As I say, the county's also changing over databases, so some of their numbers changed just the way they were input into a different database. So I just throw that out there to kind of to warn you. I really have no information, and it is a scary number to look at.
Okay. Well, I'll just wait until next week, and maybe we'll know whether that number is like that, because that would be much higher than we've experienced.
I agree.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Jose.
Look, you said they're changing databases. One, what does that mean? Because I've noticed that for the last, I think, almost 4 weeks, almost a month, you go to their former dashboard, and it's not there. It's just under construction. And today, checking it, it's still under construction. So what's going on with the county? I mean, they're not being very transparent, because that dashboard they have on now, it just leads you to the state, and we can see the state any day of the week.
Again, I'm not sure why, and I don't know if they were making do with what they had when this pandemic started and have upgraded into a more robust database. I'm not sure, but they are changing over in how they are archiving this data and reporting it. So there's going to be some hiccups, as you say. It's been a few weeks. There's been different looks on the website. Hopefully they get it all sorted out. But anytime you change measuring sticks or databases, you always, nothing ever matches up exactly the way it was before. So there may be changes in the way stuff is input, when it gets input, how fast it gets reported out. And I think that's what's leading to some of these numbers.
Do you think the database change is impacting what they're putting out on that dashboard?
Hopefully not, but it very well could be. If they have components of the database that aren't up to speed, it could be reporting 0 and then kind of playing catch up after the fact. I don't know.
Got to call my supervisor. Thank you.
No other questions for Luke? Thank you, Luke. We come to city manager comments. Luke, do you have anything?
No, nothing.
Council comments, Bob?
Well, first I'll start by saying thank you to our law enforcement personnel in the city of Clovis. It was Law Enforcement Appreciation Day over the weekend, and it is one of the reasons why the city of Clovis, I think, has such a solid reputation as being a good place to raise a family, is the way that our law enforcement is respected and have been successful in keeping the crime rate down. Also to my colleagues on the council who serve in law enforcement, Jose and Drew, you are appreciated, both as council members and for your law enforcement work that you continue to do. John? I don't know if you can, well, I wanted to let you know that this was posted, and okay. And it kind of communicates to me what I really wanted to say in light of the comments that were made by our colleagues on the council, the three of you who made comments related to what was going on at the Capitol. Yet at the same time, I mean, it's a little bit funny because we have the sibling rivalry going on with the city of Fresno. But there is something conveyed in that statement which I think brings to light what I would really have wanted to have said earlier during the public comments, and is that no matter what craziness goes on out there, whether it's Washington, D.C., Sacramento, even our sibling to the west of us over there in Fresno, there is a safe harbor that seems to exist here in the city of Clovis as a result of the work that has been done by those who have come before us, and as a result of the work of our staff, and as a result of the work of our citizens. There have been principles that have been really clear for decades now about what the city of Clovis stands for. And as a result of that, I think that people do like to live here. People do like to raise families here. People do like to shop here. And while that post is both disheartening and kind of funny, it is pointing out something that I think that we need to appreciate. And I intentionally call Fresno a sibling because of the rivalry that we have, the good-natured ribbing that we give each other. But also, the things that have been going on in Fresno lately have been really pretty disheartening to me. I mean, we are shoulder to shoulder. Willow Avenue is what separates us, and I do get concerned about the potential spillover. So today, when we had the new chief of police sworn in over in the city of Fresno, Paco Balderrama, and the way that he has been welcomed, the promise and the hope that he brings to that community, and the inspiration that he brings. I want to say that I really wish them the best, because we are, and Jose, you've said this several times, we are not an island. We are connected at Willow Avenue with the city of Fresno. So just continue to pray for the city of Fresno, our community, certainly the leadership, the new leadership there in Paco, and also the mayor for the city of Fresno, because unless they get a hold of the things that are going on over there in Fresno, it's at some point going to spill over to the city of Clovis. Today, I go in to work. I work in downtown Fresno at the district attorney's office. Within one city block, there was a shooting at the same time that I was arriving. We get our DA notification on our text messages, everybody shelter in place, because there's a shooting that took place just right down the road. I look out my window. I see the law enforcement there, and I see them being positioned behind a police car, and the police car moves, and they all kind of step behind the police car as it's moving, as they're conducting their search. Things are crazy in Fresno, and they're crazy sometimes, I feel like, in Sacramento. Certainly was crazy last week in Washington, D.C., but they're not crazy here. And I want to make sure that we don't let it become that way here by losing sight of our values and our principles in the city of Clovis. So thank you for the long discussion about that particular I should say long monologue, Chief Banaski-like monologue on that post.
Thank you, Bob. Lynn? Lynn? Vaughn?
You know, I wasn't prepared. I know that you kind of warned us, but I see that the thing that will keep us together is us being together. And I have always seen Clovis stand strong because they never tore the council apart. And today they're trying to tear us apart by mentioning each other, by mentioning each deeds. We will disagree. We will always, and that's the health of it, the disagreement and the discourse. But we must remain united. And we must not allow one group to pull me to go, I stand for this, and your group to tell you stand for that. So that way up here we attack each other to say that this part is better than that for Clovis. But we have always been united. We've been united in how we treat each other, in respect for the care and respect for the views that come. We have always been united in respecting what came before us and saying that's something we will not break, and that's the way we will always do something. We've always been united in how we treated our staff and how we respect the staff and how we value that relationship. And so whoever sits up here cannot be one who says, I don't care what they say anymore, you just do this for me, because I am, higher authority than you, regardless of my expertise, regardless. And that has been the formula that has made Clovis great. And that doesn't mean it's conservative or Democrat. That just means we're decent. We're decent people, decent, doing good work for the people. And I think that's what we offer the rest of the world, what we offer to Clovis. That I will never bash you in public, nor will I ever fear that you will bash me in public, because we can just be decent people together. And so that's my comment is just, I hope I have the courage, and that we all continue to have the courage to stand for that. Because once we lose that courage because we fear those who are whispering in our ears to go a certain way, then I think that's when the division starts, is when we lose our unity up here. And my final comment is, I'm a person of faith, and I truly believe that God is still in control. As hectic and as chaotic as the world can be, He's still in control. And in moments like this, in moments when you see nothing and it's all cloudy and it seems like no one hears anything, I think that's when we just got to close our eyes and trust and pray. God's going to bring America through. God's going to bring us as leaders forward. And God's going to raise leaders who will be able to unite us and bring us forward as well. Because when we see that there's none of that, I still truly believe that God will bring, whether it's on the staff level or in our level. And so let's not forget that. And Clovis is a place full of people of faith and different faiths who really will, go to their gods and pray that we will stand united through this moment. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Vaughn. Jose?
Let's not get too big on ourselves. There was 3 council members right before I got on the council that were indicted by the FBI, so, because they weren't Clovis. But, there was 2 others that were, and that's the good thing. And, because Operation Rezone did happen, and it happened right here among us. And, but the good thing is that 2 others did happen as well. And those were the people that kept the faith and stood for courage and remembered where they were at and didn't lose their perspective. And you know, we do have role models that we have to honor and cherish and you know, remind us that we too in this fair city are vulnerable, and we too can have the worst angels come forth, but we have to guard against that, and hopefully we do that by remembering that our roles. We are elected for one role and one role only, and that's to be visionaries and be the ones that have the legislative power of this city. We're not judges, we're legislators. What sits before us is our professional staff, that they're the executives. Once we tell them what we'd like to happen for Clovis, because we represent the citizens, they go out and do it. We don't get in their way unless they're not doing it very well. Then we do get in the way, but that's it. If they're not fulfilling their duties. And if we just stay within our wheelhouse, and I think we've done it for the last 26 or so years since Operation Rezone. So Clovis has had a good quarter of a century, and I think we can do a lot by reminding us that, yeah, we shouldn't get, you know, we shouldn't, hubris is a sin too, I guess, isn't it? And remember that there was a few of us that didn't do so well, but there was some that were brave, had the courage, and we need that courage too. And that if we follow their example, we won't stray.
Thank you, Jose. You know, tough times don't last, but they do seem to go on and on here recently. But one of the things that gives me hope is what happened with Chanel down on Pulaski Avenue. And our community rallied around her, put our arms around her, and made sure that as a united voice, we said, this is not okay in this town ever. We had protests, frankly, that I have bragged about, that we had people who were exercising their First Amendment right to bring their grievance publicly. They had their signs, they walked down the street, they stopped for the pedestrian light, waited for it to turn green, and continued walking and marching. You can't ask for more than that. Even if you disagree with what they're saying, they're doing it in a lawful, respectful, proper way that it certainly doesn't. If I see someone acting like that, I am going to give them, it's going to open my mind that maybe I need to listen a little bit more rather than somebody screaming at me. I'm going to shut down. I'm just going to probably stop listening. So as long as we remember as a community that it's okay for us to disagree, try to convince me to your position. I will try to convince you to my position if I have a different position, and that we can still treat each other respectfully. And when we see each other in public, we can smile and still wave. And I think we have some challenges coming up, and we're just going to have to meet them. It's not going to be easy. Anyway, anybody have anything else? We will we'll be in adjournment. Thank you very much.